what do you guys generally think about the concept inner game, masculine self-esteem? What do you just think about that in general, and the importance of it? More importantly,
I'll go first then. Hey, I like your introduction there. Men have gone soft, and I think that part of the reason for that, John, is look, the default for a human being that's born today is female, and in ages past, and I think these men would agree, I hope they would, we would take the young boys and try to make them men as fast as possible. And part of doing that is teaching them some stoicism, teaching them about themselves, that nobody's coming to rescue them, and teach them to be self-sufficient. And that gives a lot of, I mean, you called us older, but really all of us are forged and tempered by experiences in life, right? And that's what we try to give the young men early on. I think that's missing in some ways. We've talked about this in the past with the rites of passage that were designed to do exactly that and bring these boys and young men up to a standard by which all men live by. We used to have that very strongly in our society, and it is somewhat shifted. Some of it for the good, a lot of it for the bad.
So, what would you? I'm gonna bounce a question off of you, Thor. What would you say are the benefits of having rock solid inner game, and what are the downsides of not actually having it?
Yeah. Indecisiveness or too much decision making. You spin in your head. Everybody has this little voice in their head, and if you can't control that little voice, you will be impulsive. So I would say impulsivity, and you can see that across all of society right now. It's give it to me now. I want it now. It's almost like if you don't have control of that inner game, you're prone to throwing temper tantrums, essentially. Yep. You know, whether it's external or it's internal. Right. And it's huge, especially when it comes down to the key principles, and that's being able to validate yourself versus accepting external validation. There are people that go throughout life right now, John, that do nothing but seek external validation. That's fantastic. External validation is like a battery. It's like buying a little battery, right? Yep. You get this battery full of energy from the outside. You can see it as an example with women that post their Instagram pictures and they get the likes. Those are little batteries, right? They come in. This is external validation. You get it. You use up that energy, and then the battery's done. Well, maybe you can recharge it again, right? That is external validation. That's an analogy. What men need now inside themselves is to build an electric generator. An electric generator represents self-validation, you see. That's hard, though. Be it a small pocket Honda generator, you have to put gas in, right? If you have this generator and you can start it, it will generate electricity and power for you. Now, you can take time and build a huge diesel generator, but it requires maintenance, fuel, oil, change of air filters, and knowledge of how to operate this thing and time to operate it at its maximum efficiency. Yep. And when you do, it generates enough power, and this is your self-validation, that actually you will start to see these batteries come to you to get charged. So it's kind of the esoteric take on it, but that's kind of my take on how important inner game is.
I want to add to that. I discovered that concept, Thor, of self-validation in fucking November, man. And I'm at 35 at the time. And I didn't even realize, because I'll come to the altar and confess my sins first, right? I was using women and sex as external validation, and I didn't even know it. Guys, I'm not even joking. I'm not trying to be theatrical. I'm not trying to get signups for the Inner Game Healing Summit or anything. I'm being dead ass honest, guys. I had found a video on YouTube, and I saw this concept of self-validation. I was like, what the fuck is this hippie shit? And then I went and talked to Paul about it, and I talked to Ryan Fowler about it, and I thought to myself, holy shit. And the thing is, in some areas of my life, I did self-validate. Business competence, right? Overall confidence in the streets, one-on-one confrontations, whatever the case may be. I didn't need to be like, I need to beat this guy's ass so I can have, like, external validation. I just, you feel it, you have that certain confidence. But I lacked in the feeling good about myself in regards to the opposite sex. And right. Wraith kind of pointed out to me when we talked. He says, well, you got a little bit of mommy issues. I was like, this motherfucker wants to fight. But then then I looked up and I looked into it and I started reading. I was like, oh fuck, he's right. And then you dig deeper and deeper and you start pulling out. But what Thor said is so true. First, you become your own generator. And yes, it takes maintenance. You got to change the oil, you got to change the spark plugs, whatever the case may be, right? But once you do that, then other people start coming to you. And that's when you start building a life and building a community and teaching other people to become self-validating themselves. You gentlemen, and you gentlemen want to add on to that, or what would you say?
Well, I just want to make a comment about what you said about me. You know, John and I was having that conversation, and I tried to lead him to that. And but John just finally said, "Look, just tell me what you're trying to say." I said, "John, you got a little bit of mommy issues."
Yep.
And we talked about that a little bit, and I agree with Dora a lot. And one of the things that I find that's lacking in men today is being able to focus. Okay. And I think some of it comes from their self-talk, but a lot of it comes from the fact that, they got shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's just like when I'm working with young men today, I find that is the hardest thing to do. I spend the first 2 months of any coaching trying to get them to focus on one thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. I let them choose what the one thing they want to focus on, but there's just no ability to focus, and that's troublesome to me, because if you can't focus on something that's important to you, how can you focus on something that's important to everyone else? And as part of men, we have a responsibility, to produce. And we're not just producing for ourselves, we're producing for society.
Yep.
And like I said, that's why you see so much failure in young men today, is because, like I said, the biggest thing I found is they don't have the ability to focus. They're so wrapped up in their own shiny objects and looking for validation. You're right, they can't self-validate because they're looking for it everywhere else.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
I love the term self-validation. We used to not call it that. We would call it building character.
Right.
But it's essentially the same thing. So when those terms are relatively new, I mean, in this context, and it describes it so much better. I mean, obviously, I like my analogy because I'm a power lineman, power, batteries, generators. Anyway.
It's great.
Great. And I think, as we set through, and what Thor and I, we've been with you since, late 2018, early 2019.
19 is when I started.
Yeah. And I was I put a joke in one of the things the other day about Whiteboard John. I don't know if very many people remember that, but like I said, it's the problems haven't changed. What's changed is just even since 19, I see more and more young men trying to seek that external validation. And as they try to walk away from it, they just dive into it deeper. And when we talk about, all them trying to heal from their past issues, they're doing it the wrong way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a huge mountain to overcome.
Right.
Without instruction, let me tell you. I mean, the greatest of minds struggle with that without instruction. So, definitely seek it out.
Mark, you want to add in on that, partner?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. From the time we're born, at least nowadays more so than when I was growing up, we are programmed to believe that we got to have this, we got to do this, we got to drink this, we got to eat this, et cetera, to be okay, to be the man, or to be the best, or whatever it happens to be. With all the social media, the TV, what do they say about, you get about 5,000 different advertisements bombarded at you per day. So what happens there is you grow up believing, or programmed to believe, that you have to have something outside of yourself to be okay, to be somebody, whether it be money, women, whatever it happens to be. And like you, John, I went through that same thing about 30 years old. I didn't realize either. I had a wife in my 20s. I had 2 steady girlfriends. I had other girls I was sleeping with. And I never realized that was where I was getting my validation from. Okay. And then when things kind of fell apart, is like I couldn't even buy a date. It's like I kind of fell apart from the inside. I crumbled because everything was built up on this external validation from the women I had. And everybody, you're the man, you're the man. But when it all fell apart on the inside, it didn't matter. I wasn't the man. Everybody else thought I was, but I didn't believe I was because it was based on the women that I had. And as far as it, and I can see firsthand, we talked about the young men these days. I have I have 6 kids, 21 years old and under, 5 boys and a daughter. My daughter just turned 15. My youngest boy is 13. And we have a lot of kids over here, and there's so many kids that just don't have a clue about anything. They don't have a father in the home. If they do have a father in the home, he's weak, and they don't know, half of them don't know how to shake hands. I taught my boys how to shake hands, how to look a man in the eye. I've taught them how to fight. 3 of my boys work with me. My oldest did, but he went off and is working for someone else now. And it's really a lack of masculinity because there's no masculine role models. And like, I can't remember if it's Wraith or Thor, or both of them said, that's one of the reasons I started doing this, because these kids are lost. They have nobody. It's where when I was growing up, when I was 15, I quit school and went to work. We would stand around the corner and drink beer, a bunch of us men. And then down the street, the older men were behind this liquor store. They had a cave back there, and they all stood there and drank and talked as men. And when I was a kid, I was back there with them. So there was a lot of men getting together talking about masculine, manly things. It was just so different from now, is where it's all feminine. A lot of it is feminization or feminized, or it's so that's kind of my take on all that.
Emotionalism.
Yeah, feel your feelings, be vulnerable. I believe in being vulnerable to my mentor or my best friend, but not to your woman, or you just can't. I don't believe that works well. Women don't want that.
Yeah. I think, that really, it took me fucking hundreds of women's and making a bunch of money to realize, like, oh shit, like I still kind of don't feel good about myself, and I was using that, as me and Ryan talked about yesterday, that toxic fuel. But once you get that inner game, that real rock solid confidence where you just feel good about yourself, man, nobody can take shit away from you. You could die on your own hill, and you'll be like, fuck it, I'm gonna die.